Good morning. It's 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and I'm here with a Sunday thought. During the week, I found myself thinking of the word persevere. In fact, I got to the point where I went and found my dictionary because the one on my phone didn't seem to give me the answers I wanted. So I went to the dictionary, and what it said was to persist. Often we find ourselves in a situation in life we do not like very much, or a situation where we have to kind of persevere. And what does persevering really mean to us is that we just have to hang in there. We have to do what we need to do, create what we need to create to move forward in the direction that we want to move forward. In other words, as the dictionary said, persist. Sometimes it gets tiring persisting because we want a result or we want things to be the way we want them to be. That's if you're anything like me. You just want it to be there. Like, why isn't it like that now? Why do I have to kind of persist or keep my mind in an equalized way? Because if we want to create what we want to create, we have to mentally see the end goal. And that's where the persistence comes. It is very easy to give up and say, oh, it's never going to happen, or I won't get there, or whatever that may be and however that may look. But the reality is, if we really want something, we can take what we said, the long journey. In other words, it's not going to be quick, bang, here it is. I want it, there it is. Right. That does happen. But often in life, that doesn't happen that way. In fact, what we have to do is be persistent. We have to persevere through all sorts of trials and things. And I often, when we're in the metaphysical field, it's like, well, you can create, you're the master of your destiny. And all of a sudden, you've got situations that aren't being handled maybe effectively by yourself or by somebody else. And I find very often in these circumstances, it's not about yourself, it's about the other conditions around, other people involved, situations that are happening, i.e., was COVID, changed my life tremendously. And many, many others, many others. I run into a lot of people who've had to move cities, recreate their lives. I just had to recreate how I did my life. But I persisted in thinking, well, there's got to be something I can do about this. And all of a sudden, there was, Zoom appeared into my world. Hardly knew what that was. It took me quite a while to figure that out. And the old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Not true. It's about desire, and it's about the end result that you are really wanting. What happens very often is we get overwhelmed. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of ways you can do things. There's certain belief systems that the general public has, and we run across those. And so it's a matter of that persistence, being persistent, working, doing, learning, achieving, creating. What's the end goal? What is it that you're really wanting? Sometimes we don't know our end goal. We don't know why we want what we want, or why we struggle to achieve what we would want or like. And of course, there's many different levels. Self-satisfaction, wanting to achieve, allowing yourself to be where you want to be. When, like what we went through, when everything was restricted, excuse me a sec here. How do we deal with that? How do we persevere? Do we have people? Do we have support? Do we have all the other things that we want to achieve and do and be? It's important, I think, when we have goals, to persevere through the obstacles. There is this fallacy, as I said very often in metaphysical or even in any kind of spiritual what would we say, philosophy, that you just create, you just go out and do it. But sometimes you're countering a thought form that's out there that's strong. And what do you do about that? You persist, because you remember, I don't know why I'm rethinking of this, but it's that story of the boy that put his finger in the is it like a dam so that it didn't break? You've got to work with what you've got. You've got to keep believing in yourself. You got to keep believing and knowing that what you want for you. I'm laughing to myself because sometimes we do with that and we go and we create that and then realize this isn't really what I want. It's not quite the way we want it. But that's okay. You persisted. You persevered. You did what you needed to do to create that. There's a lot of help out there on a spiritual level that very often we forget to ask for help or clarity. I often ask for clarity because, I get caught up with how things are or what people say or whatever. And it's like, I'll just take a moment and I say, can I have some clarity, please, on this? And I begin to see what I really want or think and what other people think that I should want, think. And I found that really, really helpful to clarify, is this me? Is this really what I want? And therefore, when I know it is, I can persist. I can persevere through whatever. And I persevered through a lot in my life, one way or another. So it's like knowing that that works. But it was really interesting this week when that word came into my mind, because I had to go look at the dictionary. I knew what it meant for me, but I thought, well, what does that word really mean? This is where it got funny, because I go to my little on my phone. I have a dictionary. Didn't have the word at all. Couldn't believe it. So I have a big one up in sort of on one of my bookshelves, big thing. I went and there it is, and nice big letters, so it's easy for me to read too. And when I write, in fact, I wrote it down here. It means persist or being persistent. Go on resolutely in spite of difficulties. And the other thing I found, it said continue to exist. I had to think about that for a minute, because very often when we have a situation that we are persisting on or persevering with, we do need still to exist. We still need to have all those things that make life work, feel better about, excited about. And of course, that leads you back to goals and what you're doing, what your goal list is, where you're heading and what you're doing. And usually I deal with all that in January. But sometimes, and we're halfway through the year in June, that we need to reconsider what is our goals. Are we achieving them? Are we getting where we want? What do we need to change? What do we need to recreate? How do we want to be? All those thoughts, looking at what the goals were. Trustingly, you wrote them down somewhere where you can see them. I usually have a list where I can go back and look at and see how I'm doing on this goal or that goal, because we need to persist with ours, not only in our thinking and in our hearts, but to do what we need to do. Some goals you got to wait. It's not time for them for whatever various reasons. Other ones that can come and you can, within 2.5, 3 months, you've had them. And often we don't replace them because, I always say the universe needs lots to work with, lots to do. There was a time when I used to have great long lists of, and I have talked about that when I'm talking about goal setting, how I took a course where the instructor said, you need 101 goals. And I thought he was nuts at the time. And then I found he was correct. So anyway, we'll talk about that, I'm sure, again, when January comes along. In the meantime, I want you to take a look at your life and see what is it that you're persevering at this point, A, and B, is there things that you need to be more persevering with? In other words, more persistent, more aware, taking a look and saying, well, what do I need to actually do about the situation? Or what about this goal? How much do I really want it? Do I want it 100% or do I only want it 25? Very, very often I find people put all their energy into a goal that they really, really don't want, but think they should have, or think they should do, or even better, someone tells them this is what you need. So again, it depends where you are in relation to your life, what you're wanting to create, what you're wanting to have within you, and where you want to go. And so that's my Sunday thought. I want you to have a great weekend, great week. I'll be back tomorrow night for mental mind treatments at 7 p.m. Bye now.